Hey, James O'Leary here. This is the first of a series of interviews on the road to Bologna for the Riftbound Regionals. We've got a few weeks to go, so I've got time to speak to players before the event, and I really want to talk to players that we want to watch, all coming from different backgrounds, whether that's other TCGs, other esports, whether they're pro players, personalities within the space, and I want to just tell their stories on the road to the event. Today's guest is Ethan Wilde. He's got a handful of top 64s and 32s at Pokémon TCG, but I think his biggest result recently came winning the regionals for Pokemon TCG in Birmingham. He has a skirmish win to his name, so he's already got his bye in Bologna. And during the interview, we talk about his win in Birmingham, preparation for the event for Bologna coming up, and how that conflicts with coming events for Pokemon TCG as well. I also wanted to ask a couple of questions just to see how Pokemon TCG and Riftbound compare from a game perspective. And we talk about a lot more throughout the interview as well. Leave a comment on who else you would like to hear me speak to in the lead up to Bologna. And as always, with everything YouTube, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. Here's my chat with Ethan Wilde. Hey everyone, welcome to an interview on the road to Bologna for Riftbound Regionals. James here, joined by a very special guest today, Ethan Wilde. Thank you for making time for me today.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
Great. I'm looking to speak to players who have been making waves recently, both in Riftbound and in other games. I think it's fair to say you've had a great couple of weeks. For those of you that perhaps don't follow Pokemon TCG, Ethan just won the recent regionals in Birmingham. Congratulations, first of all. It looked like a very intense finals that you played.
Yeah. It was pretty intense, but it was cool. It was against a friend, so that's always nice.
Nice. That always helps, and I guess it was kind of like that long day. Like semifinals, especially looked like that big
Yeah,
momentous moment. But nice for you to have a lot of friends in the crowd as well. I saw you had some great support from other UK players.
yeah. The support's good, and hopefully the support is the same across many other events.
That's a great place to start. This is going to be one of my later questions, but I actually was wondering. I know you have a team, Lost Zone Kitchen, that work with you on Pokemon TCG. Are they also working on Riftbound as well, or are you kind of a lone wolf in this environment?
A couple of the team are working on Riftbound as well. Yeah, a couple of the NA players are. One of the EU players is. So yeah, there's a few of us.
Nice, nice. That's really cool to see that there's that kind of transition between games a little bit. I know that bouncing between games is not easy, and that it actually is my first question because I know Pokemon EUIC is not the weekend after we're recording this, but kind of 2 weeks away, and then Bologna is the weekend after. So how is balancing
Yeah.
prep for two games?
Balancing prep is a lot of work, but luckily my job's flexible. It allows me to put as much time as I want into card games. And after getting the win at Birmingham, it kind of alleviates the pressure. That gets me my world's invite for
Mm.
Pokemon. So other events are less important for the competitive season, so I can focus more on Bologna.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm not 100% familiar with Pokemon ecosystem with tournaments. So you still have to play EUIC and then, or is it that you go, as you said, directly to Worlds?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have to play any more events this season for
Okay,
Pokemon. Winning a regional gets you an auto qualification to the World Championships for the season. So that's locked up for me now. I'm going to EUIC just for fun, pretty much. I can still play for extra prizing and whatever, but the World's invite is locked, and I can put most of my testing time into Riftbound.
nice. Well, that's where we'll go next. That's what we're here to talk about a little bit more. So I want to hear about your experience, both in Origins, because I know you have a round one bye, right, with your Bologna. You won a
Yes,
skirmish
yeah,
locally.
yes, I won a skirmish on the Isle of Man.
Oh,
I
nice.
went to go see some friends over there, and they had a skirmish at the same time. So
Oh,
took part in that and won that.
you just rocked up as a tourist, like to the local game store. You're like, I'm here. I've got my deck. Don't worry, I've got this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice, nice. And I think if I saw correctly, you were playing Kaiser then, right? Which I mean, for Origins, a lot of people were playing Kaiser.
A
So
lot of people play Kaiser, and yeah, I was one of the many. It was consistent and pretty good into whatever you wanted to play it into.
and has that shaped your thoughts for set two? Because up until like 48 hours ago, I think most people were not necessarily off Kaiser, but you're only really picking Kaiser if you were worried you couldn't get cards, right? A lot of people were like, oh, I'll just run Kaiser if I can't get stuff. But now that we've seen Kaiser won the Dalian regionals, does it make you think a little bit more about, like, is the landscape wider, perhaps?
It's definitely more of a consideration, yeah. Like it was always on the back burner. The deck doesn't really gain an awful lot, but is quite powerful still. Any decks across any TCG that have a lot of removal spells seem to do well, and Kaiser is the best removal spell deck, in my opinion. So it was always going to translate okay into the Spiritforged meta, but seeing its win in China this weekend, maybe it's more of a front runner than it seemed.
Does that fit your playstyle? Because again, not massively familiar with Pokemon, but the deck you won with, that was a version, that was it with the Moltres that like attacks the backline, right? And you kind of does like spread damage, if I'm understanding
Yeah,
correct.
the Dragapult and the Dust Noir both kind of spread damage around. You kind of take a back foot in the early game and then have a big like disruption turn. You remove a lot of their board
Mm.
and kind of win from behind. And
Okay.
Kaiser is kind of able to do that. It's, control spell slingy deck where like your opponent can get a lead, but
Mm.
the moment you've cleared the board, you can start putting units down, and if you can keep up with removal spells, it's pretty similar.
Yeah, I was gonna say that though that that's interesting, that dynamic where Kaiser does have a lot of direct damage, but that tempo early game is like oppressive, right? When Kaiser starts getting
Yeah,
going, it's like you kind of do that mix of both, where you have really cheap units, then as you said, those damage spells allow you to clear things out and come in a little bit later. So I'm interested to see exactly where it fits in the meta outside of Kaiser. What have you looked at with set two on, like, what takes your fancy of the new stuff in set two?
I think everyone's looked at Draven. Draven has shown how good it is in China. It's got all of the best kind of aggressive units from Fury. It's got all of the good kind of interaction from Chaos. So, I mean, that looks very good. Irelia seems cool, and in a similar vein, Ornn is
Mm-hmm.
pretty similar in playstyle, where you're kind of just trying to make one big guy and hope it lives.
Yeah,
Which seems interesting.
it seems interesting. Unfortunately, I don't think it's been figured out yet, but
Yeah.
maybe there's space.
Irelia's converted a little, but
Yeah,
Ornn hasn't had his day yet.
yeah. I do wonder whether somebody's gonna break it, but the Aurelia and the Draven, and then like the Ezreal being kind of that third deck that comes out of Spiritforge is really interesting to see how that meta's shaping up now with Kai'Sa there. Um, Interesting, like looking at what you have played before and what you're looking at playing. One thing I wanted to ask you about is a weird difference that I can't help but notice between Pokemon TCG and Riftbound. And as we enter a meta where people are like cycling through their decks a lot, I was going to ask how you feel about the differences in the play of the game, where like Pokemon TCG, you have like the first search, right? Where you have to assess what's missing from your deck and then
Yeah,
figure out how to play from there. Whereas Riftbound,
yeah.
there's no shuffling at all. And once you recycle things, like things stay in a relatively similar order. Like, has that come up for you in the difference of like deck, like the way it's manipulated throughout the game?
It's definitely something that like makes a difference. Yeah, like I'm used to having so many deck searches and so much card draw in Pokemon that like playing any other TCG, Riftbound included, feels like you're just playing at half power. But but I think mechanically it's very sound. There are other games that work very similarly with kind of like no deck search in like
Mm-hmm.
One Piece and Digimon and stuff. And I've played a bit of both. And the Pokemon deck that I won the regionals with was doing a lot of filtering. It
Mm-hmm.
was, looking at top two cards, putting one in hand, one to bottom. It was essentially called shot on an ability that I can use twice a turn. Um, so yeah, like there's similar effects, and the way that Riftbound works has its crossovers.
Cool. That's I always find it fascinating, like players coming from different games. Like it feels like everybody's converging into Riftbound at some point from every single different game. Like so, seeing who copes with different mechanics in different ways, I think is really interesting to me. And that's one thing I was going to ask. We're obviously very early on in Riftbound. Is there like an effect or like a type of card that is present in Pokemon TCG that isn't yet present in the two sets of Riftbound that you would be interested to see come to Riftbound as a mechanic?
Um, I don't know. I think like we've just in Spiritforged got the equipments
Mm-hmm.
with gears, which is something that Pokemon has in Pokemon tool cards. The kind of evolution of cards is cool, and that has been used in other games as well. I think Lorcana had like shifting
Mm-hmm.
into bigger versions of a unit.
Right.
That
Yeah.
could be something that could happen in Riftbound that could be interesting, like kind of getting rid of a unit to pay like player another one of the same name for a reduced cost
Mm-hmm.
is something that would be kind of similar and along the same vein as evolution that could be cool.
Yeah, that could be a cool like direction for them to take it. That'd be really interesting. One thing I'm wanting to do with these interviews is kind of like a consistent set of questions as well, which are kind of like lightning round, but you can take a moment to think about it. So I was gonna say a couple of things. First one is favorite card to play in Riftbound.
Uh, Probably Pouty Poro. Like
Interesting.
the card just kind of creates problems passively for a lot of people's game
Mm-hmm.
plan. And I just like that, like the passive problem making. It's just a 2 might unit,
Yep.
but it changes how people have to play the game.
It certainly does. I'm one of the bad Kaiser players that was like, this unit's terrible. I'm going to take this out of my deck. Like sideboarding comes and I'm there taking the Paro out, and everyone's like, it's your best 2 drop. Don't do that. And I'm like, but it never does anything. Like that passive deflect does a lot of work. I know that's why I'm not playing in the main event. Like let me let me put it that way. Least favorite card to play against.
Dazzling Aurora.
Okay.
Um, there's not really interaction with it. It's do you hit it, do you not? Um, you can't do an awful lot. There's a small amount of gear removal in Origins. There's
Mm-hmm.
more in Spiritforged. So maybe that changes, but at least for the Origins meta, it's just a bit boring to play against.
Yeah, I can understand that as somebody who would love to play Aurora. It kind of plays the game for you a little bit, so I totally get that. And final one, is there a card that you think is underrated? And I guess that could very well be the same as your favorite card if it comes up.
Um, I don't think so. I can't think of one off the top of my head that's underrated. There's probably like underrated legends. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
Leona was pretty underrated.
Mm.
The stun mechanic is getting better with Spirit Forged, and Leona could improve. They get a new counter spell in green, um, and there's a new stun spell in green as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are definitely clear buffs to the color combination that Leona has. So maybe the Leona legend itself.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's a very fair answer. I know that Leona has a lot of fans out there, but not a lot of players at the highest level. Well, thank you so much, Ethan, for talking to me ahead of Bologna. Last question is: do you have any expectations for yourself or goals from Bologna that you would be happy to attain? Like, what's your goal going into the tournament?
I mean, it'd be great to make day two at the first European Riftbound event. That'd be cool. I'd like to get the metal card for whatever I'm playing,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's winning the event or not. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's one heck of a prize if you do end up winning. And fingers crossed for you. You have my best wishes going into the event. Thank you again for talking to me, and I will see you in a couple of weeks in Bologna.
Thank you.